Now, the transgender rapist Isla Bryson, who was born a man and transitioned while awaiting trial, has been moved out of women's prison following outrage about the safety of the women inmates.
Nicola Sturgeon announced the move given the understandable public and parliamentary concern over the case. Well, let's hear from what people in Scotland think.
But also, on that same token, you know, you do have to protect that person's, while they're serving their sentence for the crimes that they did. I'm not condoning it at all, but I would say that you do need to protect the rights of the person who's been convicted, that they are safe in their surroundings. So the government needs to step in, probably have a separate unit.
Just because they're transgender, I think they should still go into this. They should be treated the exact same, no matter if they're transgender or gay or straight or whatever. If they have done a crime, they should be locked up in the same prison as everybody else. She is still at risk of, obviously, it doesn't matter what prison she's in, she's still at risk of actually getting sexual assaulted in no matter what prison.
It's just horrifying because obviously, well, not obviously, but I was totally in favour of the Scottish Government going ahead with their transgender bill. I really was. I was really pleased and delighted by it, you know, because obviously, generally cases like this are very, very rare.
Well, we're now joined by Kellie-Jay Keen, founder of Stand-In for Women. Kelly, I presume you must be delighted by this development that no longer will this rapist be in a women's prison. Do you think this is now the beginning of the end for Nicola Sturgeon's gender recognition reforms?
Goodness, I hope so. I was quite alarmed listening to people still referring to that man, that rapist, with female pronouns. I think this is the whole crux of the argument. And it's not just rapists in women's prisons. There are lots of other men in women's prisons. In fact, there is lots of other men obliterating safeguarding in lots of areas where they shouldn't be on the basis of them being men as opposed to being women in female-only spaces.
Now, it's not I mean, it seems to me that common sense is starting to prevail here, or at least let's hope so. But last night, the BBC reported that the police in Scotland have said that Isla Bryson's offences will not be recorded as being perpetrated by a man. What do you make of that?
Look, this is the logical conclusion of pretending that men can be women. And so once you do that, once you step over that particular, I don't know, looking glass, once you go through it, there's nothing else you can do. You have to pretend that these men are women. You have to pretend that these men have the human rights or women's rights. And so I'm not remotely surprised. I'm going up to Scotland in a couple of weekends to do a Let Women Speak talk. We're going to be protested by men and furries. So, you know, anything is possible in 2023.
What, I guess, deeply upsets many of us watching this, when the bill was being debated in Scotland and people came through with these suggestions that this might happen. You might have a man who's committed a rape and then during the trial self-declares a different gender. It was seen as a nonsense. It couldn't be happening. We'd be looking at these cases one-on-one. Within weeks, this has proved that this could happen. I think his wife has said, oh, I don't believe he's transgendering at all. This was just to get an easy prison sentence. Why wasn't Nicola Sturgeon a woman listening to this?
I have no idea, but Norman Tebbit brought this up in the 90s, saying that this is the sort of thing that might happen. It's in Hansard. He talked about prison populations and men going to women's prisons, and he was sort of laughed at. It was the most preposterous idea anybody had ever heard of. But we've also already got cases. Look, as far as I'm concerned, women prison populations are not improved at all by introducing any man whatsoever, no matter how he feels about himself, whether he's pretending to be a woman or whether he genuinely believes it. So let's just keep them out of prison altogether, out of women's prison, certainly.
Kellie-Jay Keen, thank you very much indeed for joining us. You know, when I first glanced there at the screen, I was thinking it was Marilyn Monroe, if you don't mind me saying there. Yeah, thank you for joining us.